Welcome into episode number 137 of The Voice Behind the Voice. I'm Sean Aronson, the TV and radio broadcaster for the St. Paul Saints, an independent minor league baseball team in the Twin Cities. Well, I told you last week that I would be recording this week's episode well before when I usually do. Usually I record on Monday, they come out on Tuesday, but today is Thursday. Thursday, December 6th, I believe. I don't know, you lose track of the days. And the reason being is we will be in Vegas next week for the baseball winter meetings. You've heard me talk about it the last couple of weeks. It'd be very cool to do one of these in Vegas, but to ask our video production crew to bring all their video equipment just so I could record my open of the podcast doesn't seem fair to them, nor does it seem fair the amount of money that we would have to pay in checking them or bringing them on the airplane. Not really fair for anybody. I guess we could have done it by phone, maybe sitting down at a blackjack table or shooting craps or something like that. I'm sure we could have come up with a number of different ideas by using an iPhone or whatever. But I'm deciding to record this early. So next week's episode, you will hear all about the Vegas trip. And I think I told you last week, I'm going to Vegas for 6 days. 6 is the longest I've ever spent in Vegas, and I'm a Vegas guy. I like to go to Vegas. I've been 2 of the last 3 years. I think 3 of the last 5 or 6 years. I used to go all the time. When I was in college, first time I ever went to Vegas and gambled was my senior year of high school with a bunch of buddies of mine. And you cannot gamble in Vegas until you're 21. But I gambled when I was 18. It's a great story. Maybe I'll tell it to you some other time. The only thing you really need to know about that is there are like 15 of us in 2 rooms at Circus Circus. It's horrendous. One of the worst hotels ever to ever stay at for any reason. Sorry, Circus Circus. That's just the way it is. They don't sponsor this show, so it's okay. But looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good time. Baseball winter meetings. Hoping a lot of things happen. Maybe some trades or some signings of free agents. But I think it's just going to be so spread out. Usually the winter meetings are held in one location at a hotel, and then outside of that hotel, there's not much going on. So you're pretty much confined to the hotel. This is Vegas, right? I mean, it's all at the Mandalay Bay, but people are going to be so spread out doing everything else but being at the winter meetings. So I've also gotten to the point now where I have my finalists for my full-time broadcast media relations assistant. As I mentioned last week, JW is coming back as a part-time guy. But I've got my finalists, and I've interviewed most of them. I've got a couple of interviews that I'm doing next week in Vegas, and then I'll make my decision. It's always tough, right? You get down to 4, 5, 6 finalists, and they're all good in their own right, and you have to pick one, and you disappoint 4 or 5 other people. And you never like to do that because it's such a razor-thin margin that separates them. But, it's unfortunately that's just the way it goes. And so probably in a couple of weeks I'll choose who will have the unenviable task of spending 4 months with me. I would not wish that upon my worst enemy, but so be it. These people want to have that opportunity. With that said, the guy that had the unenviable opportunity to spend an hour with me, episode number 137, Ryan Ruocco, Brooklyn Nets, ESPN, lead broadcaster on the WNBA on ESPN. I think he's the number 2 guy for the NBA on ESPN, ABC, behind Mike Breen. And he's a young guy. This starts kind of a trend where I've sat down with about 2 or 3 guys recently that are very young guys. And first of all, Ryan could not have been any more gracious. We sat down. He was here for a Brooklyn Nets game against the Timberwolves and then stayed in town to do the ESPN game when the Timberwolves played the Pelicans. So this is now probably about 4 weeks ago or so that we sat down. And sat down at one of the hotels. Talks a lot about his family and the importance of his family in this. Talks about going to Fordham. I tell you what, I did not realize how great of a school this was. The lineage of guys that have come out of Fordham is pretty good, but the opportunities that Fordham gives you, I don't know why more people don't go to Fordham. After you hear this, you'll understand why. And if there are young people that have not selected a college yet, you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and you listen to this podcast, and you want to be a broadcaster, this may change your mind in terms of wherever you're deciding to go, that Fordham is the choice. He sold me on wanting to go because of the opportunities that it gives you. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, you can do so on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow us on social media, on Twitter, at The Voice BTV, Facebook, facebook.com/The Voice BTV, and you can always email me, thevoicebtv@gmail.com. All right, let's get to it. Episode number 137 with Ryan Ruocco. JW, sorry, I'd love to take you to Vegas, man. Maybe next time. Roll the open.
By the way, I applied to the Newhouse School and didn't get in, so... What do you say now, guys?
That's right.
And I would have gone if I got in too. Your loss.